the City, a great Chicago fire survival story. Okay.
I smiled back at her sadly. Emmi can't find her papa, said Cara. She doesn't know where he went. Oh dear, Mrs. O'Dowd said. Well, first things first. Have yourself some water, Emmi. She passed me the canteen. I wanted to drink the whole thing, but I forced myself to have just a little. It slid down my parched, sore, burned throat. I almost cried, it was so good. Guess what? Seamus cried, wiping water from his mouth. There was a woman having a baby, right here in the park. A few women gave birth here in the park after escaping the fire, said Mr. O'Dowd, looking concerned. It's a good thing they were able to get here safely, even if it is a scary place to have a baby. I felt my eyelids getting heavy against my will. I tried to force them to open wide. I have to look for my papa, I mumbled. I tried to move my legs, but found I honestly couldn't. Maybe your papa ended up at the lake where the fire couldn't reach, Seamus said, and he'll be back soon. Mrs. O'Dowd nodded at me. The look in her eyes was kind and sad. You can stay. I nodded wearily and lay down right there in the grass, huddled next to Cara and Seamus. The last thing I saw was the reddish sky before I closed my eyes. Even with all the noise and chaos and the fire still raging in the distance, the three of us fell asleep right there on the ground in Lincoln Park. October 10th, 1871, Tuesday morning, 2 a.m. When I woke, the sky was dark. A fine drizzle misted over my face. There were noises everywhere, and I was curled up tight against Cara. It was cold for some reason. I blinked and sat up slowly. It took me a moment to remember where I was and what had happened. I touched my wet face and realized, rain. Rain, I shouted. It's raining! All around me, people were shouting the same thing. I reached for Seamus and Cara, who were still snoring on the grass. It's raining, I cried, shaking them awake. It's raining! It'll put out the fire! Mrs. O'Dowd was fast asleep on the grass next to us. She was holding as many of the little ones in her arms as she could. Emmi! I heard someone shout. I looked up. Mr. O'Dowd hurried toward us through the darkness, pulling someone along by the sleeve. I sat up, my heart hammering. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was Papa! I got to my feet and started shaking all over. I couldn't stop myself. It felt like the whole thing was a dream. Papa? I started running, taking in the sight of his lanky frame. He was drenched and covered in dirt. His eyes lit up when he saw me. And then, Papa was picking me up and swinging me in the air. Papa! I cried and cried. I held onto him so tight I thought I'd crush him. I thought you were dead. I waited and waited for you at the house until I couldn't wait anymore. The fire was coming. I had to run. My Emmi, he whispered. He put me down and held me away from him so he could look at me. His eyes were full of tears. I'm so glad you ran, he said, rubbing my arms. When I left the house, I ran toward the fire. I was trying to help a man trapped in a building, but the whole building collapsed, and then we were both trapped. By the time we worked our way out, the fire was everywhere. I know just what you mean, Papa, I said. We tried to go around the other side of the street, he continued, but that was blocked too. When I finally found a way back to the house, it was gone. I came north as quickly as I could. I thought you... No, Papa, I cried. No, I'm here. I held his arm as tightly as I'd ever held on to anything in my life. I still couldn't believe he was here, right in front of me. I never wanted to let go again. The rain grew heavier. It was cold rain, but people were shouting, dancing, crying, and laughing with relief. I'd never loved the rain so much in my life. With Papa standing there, it seemed like everything would be all right again, even if it felt like the end of the world. Where did you go? I asked him, after you went to the house and saw it was gone. I went east, to the lake, with thousands of others, Papa explained. Many of us waited in the water until the rain began. Then I came to look for you again. I looked everywhere I could and decided to come here too. I wasn't having any luck until your friend's father recognized me from your description. He heard me calling you and came to ask me if I was looking for my daughter. Seamus and Cara had come up to us. I introduced them to Papa. Together, we told him about our adventure. He listened hard, looking in wonder at my new friends. You're good friends, Seamus and Cara, he said. Very brave. I must thank your parents for watching over Emmi, and for finding me. I shivered in the rain. Our house is gone, I burst out. For the first time, I realized my worst fear had come true. We no longer had a home.
If you want to watch more, go to the park